Essen. This is how you spell Essen Spiele is up next. Spiele is up. Spiele is up. Spiele is up. You're gonna play some games, but they might be in German. Spiele is up. Okay, it's time for Essen Spiele, folks. That's what we're talking about now. This, of course, is the biggest convention on Earth.
Yeah, it is, I believe.
And there's a bunch of games coming out. I am Mike.
I'm Nick.
We're here to talk about the games that we are most excited for that are coming out of Essen.
We would buy immediately if we were there, which we are not.
We're not there, but we would buy these immediately, okay? And these things are going to be, mostly the games we're talking about, are going to be games that are going to make their way over here at some point, sooner or later.
It's one of the things, like, I would love to start going to Essen so we could do this list and then do a list afterwards talking about, like, because there's so many games from, like, publishers that are like maybe from like Asia and things like that, that like probably aren't going to make their way onto BG, at least not yet. There's so many games, so many small games that like are just, it's going to be hard to put on a list like this because we just don't know they exist yet, you know? So someday we'll get to Essen, you know?
Yeah, it'll happen. But we do have 10 games that we are really excited for. Let's go ahead and talk about 3 quick honorable mentions. And let's also talk about this. When we say anticipated games, we are specifically talking about games we have not played. So something like Unconscious Mind is slated to release. We've played that already, so that's why it won't appear on this list. So just note that. And 3 honorable mentions are some expansions coming out that I'm excited for.
Yes, we have the White Castle Matcha expansion, which I'm very, very excited for. We actually have this expansion. We have not played it yet, which is why it's still on this list. We're going to try and play it this week. White Castle was our favorite game of last year, at least according to our list. And so an expansion, which kind of seems like it adds a lot, and so
it adds a quarter more game.
Yeah, so that's
doing four
a big
turns
deal
per
at White
round.
Castle. Yes, indeed. So what other expansions are we looking forward to?
We have the Sky Team Turbulence expansion, which just adds, it's a very small expansion in terms of what it physically adds, but it adds more modules like birds and things, so it just gives you more ways to play Sky Team, which is super cool. And there's Forest Shuffle Woodland Edge, the second expansion for Forest Shuffle. And I'm like, just keep giving me more cards and more ways to make insane combinations of things.
Just keep breaking that game.
Yeah, keep 100%. Making it just insanely crazy. So those are some honorable mentions of expansions. Let's get into 10 full-on games now that we are super hyped for.
Should you it's too long. Subscribe? Oh yes, you should, because look, it's a party if you do.
It's a party.
We will kiss you.
There's a kissing booth in this channel. Too aggressive?
That bit worked.
The bit worked. In 2024 in particular, it really worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Number 10 is Spectacular, as was that bit. This is a game where you are running your own kind of animal sanctuary for endangered animals.
I would say the name and the theme,
just
if you say, what's a game, if you said like, what do you think a game called Spectacular is about? I would not think of
like
zoo.
Making parties and things and doing champagne.
You're a magician, but not about zoos. Where you're trying to like maintain the wildlife. You have to like breed them and stuff like that.
You're trying to ensure that these animals breed to kind of repopulate and kind of.
I love these kinds of themes in general. Like I like nature themes. I really like conservation, kind of like zoo themes and stuff like that. I'm really, really excited. I love the cover. It's just kind of like this like outback.
It's like observation tower where you could like be watching your animals in these habitats.
Because like honestly, I'd spend weeks in one of those. Just be like hanging out with a book, being like, oh, cool.
There's a lot of channels I watch are like Firewatch. They have like Firewatch towers, and they go there for the summer and stuff. I'm like, it looks like a great time.
It looks like a great time.
If I didn't have family responsibilities and things.
Right.
But this is from Chili Fox Games, and they've been making some really interesting, cool games.
They make really good games, yes.
Every time they have something coming out, I'm like, you know what? This is worth listening to. The theme is cool, and this dice is kind of trying to make sure your animals are fed.
Yeah, you're drafting dice trying to, like, I believe, match it to like the color of the habitat, because that's essentially going to be like food, and you need to make
that
sure
animal can eat. And
you need to make sure the animals are together so they can breed, so you can kind of keep these animals going and stuff like that. It's a theme that I really, really enjoy. It's got a great look to it. I like Chili Fox. I'm really, really excited for this one.
Yeah, so we'll see more hopefully soon from that one, but that is number 10, Spectacular. Number 9 is a follow-up. It's a completely standalone game.
I thought it was an expansion.
It's a follow-up to Dwarf Romantic. It's Dwarf Romantic Sakura, where now you are in Japan and you're making kind of really idyllic landscapes, very much doing similar things to Dwarf Romantic, which is trying to match landscapes together and make rivers and things to complete these tasks. We're going to require you to have like 4 forests together and stuff like that.
Honestly, more Dwarf Romantic, I'm down.
Exactly.
I just played Dwarf Romantic the other day, and I was just like, God, I love this game.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. And in the first Dwarf Romantic and this one as well, there's all these types of things you can unlock. Like new types of tiles and ways to score points that are going to essentially give you a chance to go for higher and higher and higher scores.
Yes.
We really love Dwarf Romantic because it's like literally the most casual game of all time, and I think that's a positive because anyone can hop in and out at any time.
You can come place one time, like bye, and just leave.
Yeah, it's a very appealing theme and stuff, and the kind of Japanese landscape here
looks really
is
cool.
really extra pretty.
Yeah.
So it's completely standalone. It's its own whole thing. So if you haven't played Dwarf Romantic and find this theme more appealing to you, you can hop right in here. But it has those same kind of like ability to unlock things. Discover stuff, kind of have specific objectives you're trying to go for. That kind of keeps you coming back to it. So this is going to be an instant purchase for us because we love Dwarf Romantic. So I'm like, of course I'm getting this one for sure. And that's number 9.
Number 8 is a game that I have not played, but I have done a rules video for, or an in focus for over on Board Game Geek. This is going to be Ironwood. Ironwood was a Kickstarter early this year, but it was pretty done. It's releasing at Essen. It's really cool. So again, I haven't played it, but I really wanted to play it. We unfortunately had to. This was like I was doing this video for BGG like right when we were moving.
Yeah, so we were
absolutely no time. But nonetheless, this is a 2-player only game, an asymmetric game where each player is playing one side. There is the Woodwalkers and then the Ironclads. Shouts out Slay Spire. And basically, the Woodwalkers are like from this land. The Ironclads are basically coming in and. You have kind of different goals. The Ironclads are basically trying to build like their forges and do these things, and the Woodwalkers are trying to get like these totems in the forest and stuff. And you're playing these cards kind of to do these things, to kind of do the actions on them. But it's a thing where it's like the board is spread out between essentially the mountains and the forests. Yeah. And the Woodwalkers can only be in the forest. The Ironclad can only be in the mountains. And so you're kind of like maneuvering around each other, doing a little bit of fighting. It's really, really cool. It's got this really, really great art. The artist actually did a designer, like an artist designer diary on BGG. It's really, really cool. And it's the same artist who did Dark Tower. Yeah. So the art is like really, really amazing. But one of the cool things, I know you are really chuffed by this, is like the Woodwalkers.
Best gimmick ever.
All of their components are wood. Whereas the Ironclad, all of their components are metal. So you have like,
that's so dope, dude. I think
it's very, very cool.
Awesome.
It's really, really cool. So like your little troops as the Woodwalkers are like little wooden like discs and stuff like that, but they're metal if you're the Ironclad. And yeah, you have like your forges and you're trying to like drill in as the Ironclad and get these kind of resources and stuff like that. It seemed really, really cool. I really, really want to try to get a chance to play it. We just didn't get a chance to. So we will definitely be picking this one up because it just seems really, really cool. And it's a 2-player game, asymmetric decks. They play differently. You have different goals. It just seems really cool.
Yeah, it feels kind of like Pagan, Fate of Roanoke. Not in the gameplay style, but like that idea of like you have these two halves that are really kind of distinctly different. You have
diametrically opposed.
Diametrically opposed. You have different ways to win, different things you're going for, different kind of ways you operate. And I think it's a really neat setting kind of for a game. And this one really, of course, Mind Clash doesn't mess around with like their production and their theming and stuff. So I really want to try this one to see kind of how it all plays out. But dude, that gimmick is like elite. S-tier gimmick for sure. Next up is Explorers of Navoria. I'm not going to lie. This one I was just like, that looks pretty. It looks
really pretty, yeah.
I like the little
that's all I care about.
woodland sprites vibe. And this is a game where you're going to be, I think, it's kind of like maybe bag building. You're pulling chits out of a bag or something. And you get these adventure cards. You're going to be building on a tableau. And they're going to help you kind of like make contact with the different races of Navoria. Build out things, get some instant benefits. This is one we don't know a ton about. But I'm like, it looks really,
I know there's
like got a great vibe.
Yeah, you're pulling stuff out of the bag. I think there's either like actions or you're pulling stuff out of the bag, then you're drafting cards, all things that I enjoy. I always enjoy kind of action stuff that's basically based off of kind of that kind of randomness. But again, it looks really, really nice. It's kind of got like a root look in terms of like the art is kind of similar-ish, which I think is cool. And yeah, it's very, very vibrant. It looks really, really pretty. Again, don't know too much about it, but I'm very interested. And that's a lot of these lists, these ones particularly are just like, we're just interested in these games. Like, we might get a chance to see it, learn about it, and go, never mind, we're fine. But it's just like, it's one of those things where like this
minimal
one
information to go off of.
Yeah, this one makes my heart happy because it looks nice, and I'm very curious about it.
Same. That's all I got. Nick, same. Nick, same. Next up is I feel like
this is the theme right now. I feel like
there's it's a big.
It's not space. It's specifically like
observing
astronomy
space.
And like and this is Galileo Galilei, which is about you're like Galileo, you're like looking through telescopes at the stars and stuff like that.
Discovering the planets and learning about our solar system, and you have this telescope that's actually kind of dictating what actions you're taking, which is like, again, great gimmick.
Very good gimmick.
I like that you're looking up and stuff, but yeah, this kind of astronomy.
Well, there's just
understanding of space is kind of in right now.
Yeah, there's like a lot of these kinds of like space games, but they're not space games like space exploration or 4X games. You're like learning about space. I just feel like there's like one we'll talk about a little bit later. This can be number one. If you know us, you know it's gonna be. But there's like the Search for UAPs came out. There's like this one. I feel like there's more of these games that are just about
looking up,
as opposed to like being up there and stuff like that. And I'm very, very down. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big astronomy buff. I love to like read books about astronomy and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, so any game that's like, I'm way more interested in like this version of space as opposed to like the being in space kind of thing. Like this to me is way more interesting. And so like I am all down for like all of these kinds of games. But yeah, this one seems really cool. It's got a really great look. Yeah. It's just cool that it's about like Galileo and stuff like that, the Galilean moons and things like that. Because that was that whole time was just such a... It's
a majorly impactful moment of history.
Yeah, exactly. And you have like, you have Kepler and all these other people of just like discovering these things and realizing these things, and of course getting in trouble for it as well. Yeah. Because it went against, like Galileo was under house arrest for the rest of his life, right? Because he had the audacity.
Life didn't end well.
No, yeah. So it's just like one of those things where it's like it's a fascinating time, and I love the fact that like the telescope is kind of dictating what actions you're doing. I just think it's really, really cool. And any game that has this theme, I'm basically immediately going to be interested in. And this one also looks really, really cool. It's got a great look. It's got a cool time. I'm down.
I agree. It's a good thing to be talking about. I like science-based stuff, like history-based stuff. So hopefully it's good. Next up is Stefan Feld's latest and greatest big dog.
People keep saying this is like heavy as hell.
It's
currently like a 4.4?
Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of ratings, but it's currently at a 4.4 out of 5, which means it's on the heavy side.
Civolution?
Civolution is the game. This is a game where essentially... Come here. Come right up in here.
Give me a...
Get a tight on Nick.
Give me a...
Jamie, get a real tight on Nick right now.
Give me like a... How's everyone feel about Civ 7? Civilization 7?
We're excited.
Sid Meier's Civilization 7?
We're excited.
How's everyone feeling about it?
We're excited.
Is anyone out there? How's everyone... They're changing a lot.
They're changing a lot, to be fair. I'm excited because I don't have a lot to compare it to.
That's fair. They should change the game. Keeping it the same every single time is dumb, in my opinion.
But anyway, Civolution, speaking of that, this is a game where thematically you are all essentially like gods running an experiment where you're given a continent to look over. And you're sort of doing an exam. Like you're going to be like tested over 4 eras. You are going to be a deity that is matched to this landscape, and you are going to kind of shape this landscape in I guess
it covers like these like kind of big hands.
Yeah, so, you're sort of shaping the future and stuff. And so that's just an interesting theme, and I'm sure being a Stefan Feld game, it's going to not come through terribly well. Yeah. But you're going to be doing mechanism stuff. There's dice drafting and things, and this is one that like is on our list because
it's Stefan Feld.
It's Stefan Feld.
Yeah.
It's Stefan Feld. We've heard good things, so it's not just like Stefan Feld gets a auto pass for everything. But
no, I feel like Stefan Feld hasn't had like a hit in a while. Yeah.
So,
but definitely down. And honestly, I'm intrigued by apparently the weight of the game. And again, who knows? Maybe more will come out, and it's like, oh, it's not quite as heavy as it was. It might be skewed by the little.
It'll come down a bit, but it's not going to go. But it's also listed as a 2 to 3 hour game, so it's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this is a huge. Because Stefan Feld will make bigger games, but like Cast of the Bird, a lot of his biggest games are not
90 minutes,
not huge games, not overly complicated. It's like a really heavy, long game. That's Stefan Feld, and it's just Stefan Feld. It's not a joint design, I don't believe. So I'm just like. So. Ooh, that's interesting. And the theme I think is cool. Again, I don't think it's going to come through in the mechanics at all, but like whatever. Again, as we've said many times, if you're going to paste on a theme, use tasty glue. And this is some tasty glue.
I think it's a fun one of just like it's like you're just running this fun experiment. Go make a land and people and things, and they'll worship you or whatever. So this is one that purely based on reputation, a little bit of rumblings of what we've heard. The idea that it's kind of this big heavy game is enough to put it on our list.
Y'all be knowing we love Vladimir Suki. Vladimir Suki comes out with like one game a year.
Yep,
and it's usually at Essen. Actually, it's pretty much always at Essen. Yep. And I'm always in. And this is Rasafa, which is by Vladimir Suki.
Yeah.
Last year's was Evacuation, which we still don't have.
But we have played it several times because a friend of ours had it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Rasafa, where you're in the area is called Rasafa, which is in modern day Syria, and it's just like ruins nowadays. It's not like a place anymore.
So you're kind of now back in the heyday of that civilization.
Yeah, and this is a game kind of all about trade. You're like merchants and stuff like that. I think on the thing it says there's like 14 turns, which of course there is because it's Vladimir Suki, which means you're not going to have enough time to do what you want to do.
I'm stressed out about it already.
I just played Woodcraft recently, and I'm just like, God, you don't have a lot of time in this game.
Not a lot of time.
But yeah, so this is a game where you're. It's kind of like a kind of a hub where there's like a lot of trade routes will go through this area. But it's interesting because in this area, at least according to like what we know about the game in the kind of area, it's like there's no natural water sources. Yeah. So they had to build like really big cisterns to collect like rainwater and spring water and things like that. So I know that's a part of the game where you have to be like collecting water and like managing water because they're like, well, if we run out, we can't get any more. Yeah. Because we can't create some clouds.
Every time I breathe out, I'm losing water. There's a piece of this where it is about the kind of day-to-day survival of dealing with the elements. Yeah. And then there's this cool thing where you're like planting gardens as well, and you actually plant them, this is kind of how it was, in between, various market stalls and things, because I think there'd be less direct sun on there, less shade, you lose less water. So these people were really innovative in how they kind of really use their resources wisely, which is something that like would be great if we did today at all, and did things. So there's that kind of element as well, and trying to make money and be a thriving kind of trade hub.
It's Vladimir Suki. I'm gonna buy it.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Don't care about it.
Instantly buy it.
Yeah. So, but the game itself does seem cool. Cool theme.
Seems
but like,
very Vladimir Suki.
I'm like, I do. It's Vladimir Suki. I want to buy it. I mean, if there's anyone that's an instant buy that's not Vladimir Suki, it's pretty much Uwe Rosenberg.
It is. And so a good portion of this list is dominated by like designers we really like and them having a new game that we're excited for. So this is the Black Forest.
Yeah, Black Forest. Sorry, there's a lot of this Essen. I feel like there's a lot of very prominent designers coming out with big games. Yeah, like there's a lot because like Sevenfeld doesn't necessarily always have a big game out every year at Essen. Nope. Uwe, decent amount of time. Vladimir Suki always does, but it's just like, there's like a lot of these ones that are just like, there's like a lot of kind of like big heavy hitters that kind of all happen to fall around this Essen. But this is kind of like Glass Road 2.0.
It is like kind of a sequel. It's a co-design with Tito Lorenz, and it's it's kind of a follow-up to Glass Road where you are now kind of moving around a board to make use of specialists and stuff to kind of do very similar things to Glass Road. There are the resource wheels. Yeah. I think here you have the ability to kind of like, you start producing resources more maybe. Oh, interesting. And you're going around to different areas of the board, and that's where the specialists are, where in Glass Road, they're cards that you're playing out. So I think it's kind of doing a similar thing, arriving in a different way, and you're building buildings on your player board and pawns and various things that are going to, either be a one-time benefit when you build this building, some sort of ongoing thing like a trade of resources you can make, or kind of an end game scoring. So maybe you'd want to have pawns adjacent to this card, this tile rather, and stuff like that. So this is kind of cool because it adds this board element, which I think will be kind of interesting. And I don't quite know like how you're meant to move around the board, but it is about going
set path or whatever.
Yeah, you're going basically from village to seek out these specialists to help you build. And I think it could be a really interesting like thing of trying to figure out maybe like how do I efficiently navigate the board.
Especially if it's it looks kind of circular-ish. So if it's like a rondel where it's like you can kind of go as far as you want, but then like you're passing up stuff, that is always an interesting decision space. And so like
that could very well be what it is.
I wouldn't hate that, So it's Uwe, and T. Lorenz, we're gonna buy it. Like
and Capstone's gonna be bringing it over, so it'll be available. Capstone. I imagine here soon, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, they'll be bringing over all the Feuerland Spiel stuff. Yeah, so
can't wait.
Crushing it.
Black Forest.
This next one is here because we like Seven Wonders Duel, and this is Lord of the Rings. This is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth. This is a re-implementation of Seven Wonders Duel. There are some changes,
definitely,
to make it Lord of the Rings with Institute Trait Art. Like literally, I will pay you twice as much as you want for this game.
Yeah, like it's.
There's nothing. There's no amount. I will give you a blank check. Like,
don't do that. I mean, they'll take it.
I'll do it.
They will take it.
I got dumb cash.
Got dumb cash. This is a using kind of the card pyramid setup from Seven Wonders Duel, and you're drafting cards and stuff, but you are either the Free Peoples or the kind of Shadow Army. and Mordor and stuff, and kind of vying for.
Basically the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's essentially the same size. There's a board and stuff with different regions of Middle Earth, and you are putting troops out. And again, that might be based on the cards you're taking. I think so.
Right?
Yeah. So I think there's actually some like area control stuff. So that's like a little bit more beefed up than like in Seven Wonders Duel. That's of course very abstract. You're just moving this like tug of war thing, but you don't know what's really happening. So I think it moves it onto the map.
Which is cool.
There are ring cards and stuff, and basically I think there's the struggle of like corruption from the ring.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm assuming that if you're the Free People, is like the Fellowship, it can be useful to have some of that, but you could go too far and be fully corrupted. And so this seems like there's these alternate ways to win, kind of like Seven Wonders Duel has.
I was going to say like
doing it very differently. But
in Seven Wonders Duel, one of the things famously is that there are multiple ways to win, and this not having that would be weird, to be completely honest. And the cool thing about this is like there are. Within thematically, there's multiple ways you could declare victory, right? Like if you could be corrupt by the ring, and the other side would therefore win. You could win by kind of like War of the Ring in that sense, where it's like there's multiple ways to win. So like it makes sense that this would kind of fall under that. But I mean, I don't know. It's Seven Wonders Duel, I think, is a masterpiece. I feel like I'm not as big a fan as a lot of other people, but I fully acknowledge how amazing that game is.
Yeah. But I think the setting here, the setting change will just like make it so for us.
And then just the art. I mean, Vince Dutray is one of the best artists anyway, but that cover is just like, Jesus, get out of here,
that
dude.
first image they released of like Gollum, I was like, dude, this is amazing.
I know, I was just like, whoa. And so, it's going to be good. We were trying desperately to play this at Gen Con. They had like a demo copy there, and we just couldn't get in to play it.
Didn't happen.
But man, I really want to play it. So that'll be an insta buy because it's just like, ridiculous. It's, I mean, you probably knew it was going to be SETI.
SETI.
If you didn't,
this
know us.
This is kind of the consensus most anticipated game, at least on Board Game Geek. SETI is the next game from CGE, who often have a Essen release at Kutna Ora last year.
Well, and again, like upon revisiting, Kutna Ora is my favorite game of last year. When we did our list, it was White Castle. We hadn't played Kutna Ora yet. Kutna Ora is my favorite game of last year.
Yeah.
So like the yearly CGE release is almost always top 2 or 3 most anticipated for me personally.
CGE has been a strong company for a long time. Yes. That's nothing new, but they have really, in the last 5-6 years, or 4 years, I'll say, have just been on fire. Like Lost Ruins of Arnak drops in 2020.
Yeah.
Absolutely Bonkersville, and they've just really been cranking it out since. It's been really great. So SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yes. So again, you're looking at
the start, trying to find.
SETI is a real thing.
Yeah, this is a real thing. And it's a board game about trying to search for possible life out there using. It's very much a game that is based in today's science and some of the techniques that we are using currently with our satellites and stuff like that. And you are kind of observing. There's this cool central board with planetary objects revolving around, and you're basically trying to observe certain sections. It's not like Search for Planet X where you're doing like logic deduction.
You're not deducing anything.
Very much a Euro game, but it's the same kind of idea where I'm looking up this part of the sky or this part and sending out probes and stuff.
To like different moons and stuff, which I think gives you different angles. Eleni Carver Rhino, who works for CGE, gives a little demo at Gen Con, and it seemed really cool. But you actually can't find like alien species. It's not like you're just looking. Like they actually are in there in this game, as they probably are out there in real life.
But it's like, and there's different ones depending on the game you play that might.
And then I think you can become like friends with them, which gives you like benefits and stuff. There's tons and tons of card play and stuff. I mean, it just looks like CGE insanity goodness. Yeah. The board is super cool. It's got a theme that like again, it's like probably like a top 3 theme for me. It looks nice. It's just like, I don't know, this is one of those games where like the second I heard about it, I immediately was like, well, that's probably gonna be my game of the year. If not, it's probably gonna be top 3 just based off of the rest of that stuff alone. And it just seems really, really cool. So this is what we're gonna have to get and play to make sure, because again, Kutna Ora probably would have been my favorite game of last year if we had played it beforehand. So this one we got to get played.
If it's available over here by the end of the year, we have to make sure
I would assume
that
it will be,
that
but
we play it.
Because it's CG. They're pretty much everywhere. But SETI seems insane.
It seems really cool. If you like Euro games and CG type games, it seems like to me it seems like a potential like high watermark game. And that's no disrespect to Kutna Ora or Lost Ruins of Arnak, anything that's come recently. This just seems like really, really amazing. So we hope it is, of course. We don't know. We haven't played these games. That's why they're anticipated, but that is our list.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, so that's our list. Super excited always for Essen. Again, hopefully every year we say we're going to go to Essen. Every year we end up not being able to go to Essen.
It's far
next
away,
year,
to be fair.
I'm going to say we're going to go next year.
We're going to go next year. It's happening.
Who knows, right?
You heard it here, folks.
It far. And it's also kind of in a busy time of year, but it's like, it's a good time. And I really, really want to go. Because for all of these big games, but it's honestly so many for like
there's a lot of
the
great
small
people
games
there.
We just don't know about that I'm really, really excited
I'd love to
for.
wander and pick up like a boatload of just small, weird card games.
Yeah, little card games.
You know what I mean? Because there's probably hundreds and hundreds there that we may never ever hear about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, that is just 10 games with a couple of expansions as an honorable mention that we are excited for.
Yes.
Please let us know in the comments below what games you've heard about, any rumblings out there, things that you think would be really cool, especially like, hey, I really want to see you all cover this. Please let us know that.
Please.
Because we will try to prioritize talking to publishers or whoever we can to about getting certain games if we hear a lot of people say, play this game. So always give us feedback in the comments like that. It'd be super duper cool. If you want to support us and things you have seen below here, our patrons
Thank
scrolling
you.
by. We really appreciate you patrons. It helps us pay for the studio. Every month we have all sorts of bonus content.
Yeah.
First looks at games.
Supplemental top 10s,
supplemental
just behind
top
the scenes
10s.
stuff in general. It's a good time over there.
There's going to be a lot more kind of bonus content coming from videos real soon. So do become a patron today if you got a couple extra bucks. And anything else?
That's it.
That's going to be it for us, everybody. We'll catch y'all next time.
Thank you so much for watching that top 10. Big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Board Game Geek, Garfield Games, and Artig Table. And a big shout out to Condar, who's our sponsor for the month. They have a dog named Custard, and a cat named Sass, and a cat named Cindy. Is Cindy sassy? Every Cindy I know is sassy, so probably. Thank you, Condar, for sponsoring.